In the document module, you have the option to create your own folders and add your own files to a folder, or just add files to the document module. It works similar to Dropbox or Box. And if you look at your screen, you'll see there's quite a few documents already in this management system. So the idea is to that Elint hosts your management system documentation for you. There's some mandatory documentation that's required by the ISO standards, and some documentation that's required by your permits, licenses, and legal requirements. So these can all be organized in any format that you want. You choose the file. If you add a folder, you choose the folder name, the file name. You can identify who you want, what you want to call your folder. You can describe it. You can link it to a specific requirement, so you can identify if it's something that is linked to a permit, to legislation. Is it a policy? Is it a standing operating procedure, for instance? So you can ultimately create your own type of folder, so that you can input your management system procedures and policies that's required, the documentation and records that's required within your system. The folder applies to, you can link it, for instance, to your management measures as well. We will look at management measures when we look at the CMS module. The management measures drive the actions to ensure that a procedure or a specific way of doing things are actually managed and measured within the Elint system. You can also ensure that once a procedure is changed or a new revision is added, it will notify specific people. So you can identify who you want to notify. And then we also have, if you want specific users that can view, so if you don't want all users within your Elint management system, if there's specific users that needs to view the document, you can also do that, and you can create your specific person. If you do that, you can also give that user specific permissions. You can tell that user that they've got read-only access, or they can submit records, which means they can upload records, but they can't change any of the documentation that's already uploaded. Write access, and then they can also be an owner of the specific document. So that specific procedure or policy can be owned by different people within your management system, as and when people take ownership for their own procedures. So you can, for instance, have your operational people looking after your work instructions, have them being the owners, and not necessarily your health and safety people being the owners of those documents. So once you've created your folder, you can add your file, which is your documents, and again you've got certain options similar to what we've just seen in creating a folder. When you do create your document and your file, which will be your document or your record, you obviously need to ensure that you add a version. This is not added by Elint, as you might work on a different format of recording your versions or your revisions of your specific documents. So these are open field that needs to be imported, and then you upload your file, and again you can identify your users, and if you identified a user, again you can give permissions to that specific user for that specific file, not just a folder. It can be a file within a folder. Okay, so if we look at a specific file, if you hover over the wording of a folder, it will highlight. If you click on it, it actually opens that specific folder, and within it, if you click on this, it will then download your document. So let's just have a look. Here's our document that's been downloaded. Construction Regulations 2014. So that is a piece of legislation. You can see it's a huge document. We have 150 megs available per file that you can upload at once. It all depends on the license that you will create. Let's just go back to the folders. So if you click on the tick box there, you'll have more options to actually manage this folder or even the file. You can archive it, so it goes into archive. You don't have to delete it. If you do delete it, it will stay in the database. You will just not see it on your site anymore, and you can move it. So if you want to move a specific file to another folder or folder to another folder, you can actually move that as well. If you look at these tabs on your right, the eye gives you the information. This is the section that you've captured to explain. That's the description of your folder. It tells you the legislation is the type that you've selected. If you would have linked it to a management measure, you'll have the management measure listed here. It tells you who actually added the folder or the file, when it was done, and when it was last updated. So it's compliant with the ISO 9000 requirements. If you click on this tab will only be available to those with permission to change your document system. So we've got edit, we've got add folder, we've got add file, archive, and delete as well. If you go into the document section again, if I say add a version, then I don't have to change everything. I just change the version number and I upload the new version, and the people that will view, that's got view rights only, will only see the latest version of a specific document. Here you can see it's got the same information as what we had before, and if I click on this, it got the same information. If I click on include archives, it will show me if there are any archive documentation within the system, and here we don't have, but if there would have been, then you would have seen it. Again, on your left we've got filters. So if we just go back, if you look at your filters, we're going to say we want to look at a specific standard. Okay, there's no standard attached to it, no documentation attached to that standard. We want document types, so we want to look at all the policies. It gives me all the policies, but you can also word search. So if I want to say I want a she policy, it will also, well, it tells me this now. Let's just see if we've got legal appointments. There, we've got the legal appointments that I've just searched, and that's your document control module.